in our economy, because this is where the government of the country, this is where the government of the country or the public sector gets their revenue from to finance the public goods they provide, the public goods and services they provide for the country. Okay, so when we found out that maybe when the government imposes tax on goods and services, these taxes will affect the prices at which goods and services are sold in the markets. Okay, and then the the price that is, or the change in price can lead to a more efficient allocation of resources. Okay, so let's say that, for example, if there's a good that the government wishes to, or if there's a good that is harmful that the government wishes consumers to stop consuming, they can put more tax on the goods so that at the end of the day the price would increase and would discourage consumers from purchasing that good. And if there's a good that the people of the country really need, like food or medicine or something of that sort, the government can equally provide subsidies where um, the prices of those commodities would decrease so that consumers can or will be able to purchase. Okay, so we'll look at tax incidence. So with tax incidence, we say this refers to the analysis of who ultimately bears the burden of the tax, right? If a tax is imposed, in the long run, who will be the one to bear that tax? That is what we are going to be talking about with the tax incidence. Okay, so um it's not always the entity that pays the tax to the government that bears its economic burden. Okay, so for example, if a tax is levied on producers, we find out that because they want to maximize profits, they in turn would send the taxes to the consumers through prices, where the consumers will have to pay more prices because they've been taxed more. So they will not pay for the tax, but then the consumers who are consuming the goods will be the ones to um, they'll be the one to incur the cost of that tax that has been put on their goods. Okay, and then we also want to establish that the actual distribution of tax burden depends on the price elasticity of supply and demand. And I think we've done this way back when we were at secondary school. So we learned about what price elasticity of demand and what price elasticity of supply is. Um, does anybody remember what they are? So, like, if you can briefly tell me what happens if PED is inelastic or elastic, or if PES is inelastic or elastic. Does anybody remember? Nobody? Okay. So, when PED is inelastic, or when the price elasticity of demand is inelastic, we say that um, consumers will bear a larger share of the tax burden because they are less sensitive to the change in price. So if the change in price, or when there's a huge change in price, or even when there's a little change in price, how consumers will respond to the demand for that commodity whose price has increased will be very insignificant or insensitive. That is, it will increase or decrease by a very small margin. That is when we say that the PD of a commodity is inelastic. And also, if the supply is inelastic, producers will bear more of the tax burden. So we are looking at the elasticity of both supply and demand and how tax would make that happen. So we are saying that when demand is inelastic, we find out that the consumers, are the ones bearing majority of the tax. Okay, that is because if the price even increases or there are higher prices, they will not really change their demand. They'll still purchase it anyway. So they would have to bear the burden. But then, if supply is inelastic, that is the situation where the producers will be bearing more of the tax. Okay, so let's put this in mind. When demand is inelastic, consumers will bear more of the tax through the higher prices they'll pay for the commodity because they are insensitive to the change in price. Okay, and then when supply is inelastic, then the producers will be the one to bear majority of the tax because in producing, when the cost or um when there are higher prices or when the goods are sold higher prices, the response of consumers, sorry, the response of producers will also be inelastic. That means they will respond very insignificantly to the change in the price. Then we'll go ahead to look at how taxation affects economic efficiency, or the relationship between taxation and economic efficiency. Okay, so what is economic efficiency? Economic efficiency is achieved when resources are located in the way that would maximize societal welfare, right? So when we allocate resources in a way that will make sure that everybody in the society is doing well, that is what we term as economic efficiencies, right? And how do taxes come in here? Taxes can distort this allocation by changing the behavior of consumers and producers. Right. So let's take an example. Let's say a high income tax is imposed on salaries. Right. In the long run, it will discourage people from working more hours. Okay. Why is that? Because if I'm to work more hours, it means that my salary would increase. But if my salary is increasing, it means I'm being taxed more, right? Because the higher my salary, the higher the tax, right? And this will lead to a less productive economy because if people are seeing that at the end of the day, if I am working more and then I'm being taxed more, then the majority of my pay is going to the government rather than being my income, then why would I even force myself to work in the first place and the government to take the money at the end of the day? You see? So that is how taxation is affecting economic efficiency. Instead of people to be productive and then make sure the economy is blooming, they'll rather be laid back and not work because of maybe an increase in income tax. Okay, so and because of this, it is advisable that our tax systems um, are broad based and then we have low rates. Okay, and so that our tax systems are broad based and then we have low taxes. So when we have low taxes, it means that our economy would be blooming and then we will be in efficiency. Okay, and then if we do this thing, we find out that uh, the incentives for individuals and businesses will be altered, right? Because their behavior will be solely to avoid taxes. So they'll do anything possible to avoid these taxes, right? And then we also say that our taxes can significantly distort prices and the allocation of resources by altering the behavior of both consumers and producers. So sometimes if there are some behaviors of consumers and producers that we are not, or we as the public sector or the economy or the government is not very happy with, we can use these taxes to distort the prices, right? And in the long run, it will affect the allocation of resources. So let's say when a tax is imposed on a good or service, we've already established that it will increase the price of the commodity or of the item. And then most of the times this is passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Okay, because producers or sellers, their main objective is to make profit. So if with their cost of production you are going to impose taxes upon them and make them incur loss at the end of the day, then they'll rather push the taxes as higher prices to the consumer so that the consumer will be the one to pay. And in the long run, they'll still be able to take out their cost of production, and also they'll still be able to achieve the profit that they want to achieve. But then, if these things happen where producers are imposing the taxes they get at higher prices on consumers, in the long run, we see that the quantity demanded for these products would decrease, right? Because if the normal law of demand tells us that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. So if taxes are being imposed, and producers also impose these taxes at high prices for consumers, in the long run, the quantity demanded for that particular product would decrease. Okay, why would this decrease? If let's say we are looking at two commodities, let's say Coke and Pepsi, and then I often purchase Coke, and then because the government is imposing so much tax on the people who produce Coca-Cola or the Coca-Cola company, and the Coca-Cola producer is also in turn increasing the prices of Coca-Cola so that he or she will not incur more he or she will not incur the tax, but rather to me as the consumer, I would switch to buy Pepsi because that would be a relatively cheaper commodity as compared to Coca-Cola, which is being expensive, and then the quantity demanded for Coca-Cola would increase. Sorry, would decrease rather. Okay, okay. So when this happens like this, we see that there'll be a shift in consumer behavior. How? Because um, there'll be reallocation of resources away from the production of taxed goods towards untaxed goods, right? Or less heavily taxed alternative. So instead of resources to be more allocated to the goods that are being taxed more, now we find that there'll be a reallocation of resources to the goods that are less taxed or the goods that have less tax, because those are the ones that consumers would mostly like to buy or mostly prefer, because the prices of those commodities will be less because maybe the tax there is less. Okay, so we'll go ahead to look at balancing tax policies. Okay, so by balancing tax policies, we said this involves considering both the revenue needs of the government and the economic impact this has on the society, right? So the government or policymakers must weigh the benefits of tax revenue against the potential inefficiencies and inequalities that taxes can introduce. So in as much as we want to impose taxes to make revenue or to generate revenue to fund certain public goods or services, we should weigh this against maybe potential inefficiencies and inequities that taxes can introduce. For example, talking about income tax, right? We want to generate revenue through income taxes so that the government can fund maybe an infrastructure or something. But what if in the long run, instead of people now working more, so the government can gain more income tax, they decide that they are not going to work more, because at the end of the day, if they work, the government will still take majority of the money. So instead of now the government generating revenue from the income tax, what we'll find out is that there will be unemployment, where it's not like there are no jobs, but the people themselves are deciding not to work, because at the end of the day, the income they make will still be taken by the government. So in imposing such taxes, we should make sure that there's a fair distribution of the tax, right? Whilst we are minimizing economic distortions or economic inefficiencies. Okay, so here we should make sure that maybe we use like a mixture of different taxations. So maybe we not focus all our taxes on income tax, or all our taxes on consumption tax, or all our taxes on property tax, or any other tax. But then we should allocate each tax wisely, for lack of word. Let's allocate each tax wisely so that to target different aspects of the economy, of economic activities, and so that the tax distribution will be more equitable. Okay, so for example, we could take a bit of income tax, we could take a bit of consumption tax, we could take a bit of property tax, and the likes, rather than focusing all our revenue from, or rather than trying to get all our revenue from one source of income or one form of taxation. So let's say for consumption taxes such as our VAT or our sales tax, these taxes are levied on the purchase of goods and services, which we already know, right? And then they are usually considered to be regressive, right? Because they take a larger percentage of income from low income individuals. Why is this so? Why do you think that our consumption taxes are seen as regressive taxes? Please, are you with me?
Yes, madam.
Okay, so I'm saying that it is regressive because they take a larger percentage of income from low income individuals. And why is that so?
Maybe it's because these low income consumers basically consume goods and services that this tax component is usual tax on, so that is why they pay high amount.
Okay, exactly so, exactly so. Because with low income consumers, you find out that mm, it's not even almost all their income generated goes into consumption, right? They go into purchasing of food, purchasing of medicine, and the likes. They don't have extra money to be thinking about building properties or things of that sort. Okay, so even though we are trying to administer or impose taxes on these goods to get money from there, we find out that at the end of the day it is creating inequity, because the people that we want to gain the revenue to provide the public goods and services for them are the ones we are taxing more, are the ones we are taking majority of the taxes from. Okay, so maybe what government can do is goods that are necessities or that are essentials, we maybe minimize tax or even subsidize the production of those goods so that low income earners can benefit from them, and then there will be equity in the system. So another form of taxation is the property tax, and that is another important component of a balanced tax system. Okay, so we know these are the taxes that we take on properties most of the time from our real estate developers and the rest. And then mostly this property tax is used in funding our schools, infrastructure, security services, and yes, and the likes. Okay, and is quite balanced because with the property tax, it is based on the value of the individual or the business's assets. Okay, so if you own a very huge land, or if you own a very huge company, right, it means your taxes will be more, or you have a higher tax. And this is quite understandable because if you weren't making a lot of profits, you wouldn't be owning a very huge company. So let's look at let me see. Let's look at, let's say, Belacqua, and Belacqua is paying for property tax. And let's look at Mr. Mr. Mankwa, who has a very small um, pure factory behind a, a building at our area. We wouldn't be taxing them the same, right? Because Belacqua has a lot of properties, they will be paying relatively high, right? And as compared to Mr. Amankwa, who is just producing a local community water, sachet water, not even bottled water. You see, so at the end of the day, there's equity because we are taxing them according to the wealth they possess or the assets they have or the businesses that they run. So using this type of mixed taxes, the government can create a very balanced and equitable tax system to make sure that there's efficiency and then there's maximum social welfare. And this even helps to stabilize our government finances, right? Because there'll be a diverse stream of revenue. We'll be getting money from different places. We'll be generating our taxes from different places, not focusing on just one means of taxation. And by so doing, as I've already said, um, we would there will be social equity, and then our economy will be in a bloom. Okay, so we will go ahead to look at what optimal taxation is. So when we talk about optimal taxation, what are we talking about? So with optimal taxation, it's a concept in economics, right, that aims to design a tax system that will maximize social welfare while minimizing economic distortion or economic inefficiency. While minimizing economic inefficiency. And please give me a minute. Hello, sorry, apologies for that. And let's kindly continue. So we find out that in Ghana, there has been so many instances where um, the concept of optimal taxation has been explored, right, to enhance economic growth and even to ensure social welfare. So there was a study that was conducted between 2007 to 2017, and this study just aimed to determine the optimal tax for Ghana's economic growth, right? And then it suggested that for Ghana to achieve an average economic rate of 8.88%. Then the optimal tax rate should be increased from then the current 15.30% to 27.69%. Okay, so this was just done to emphasize the balance between tax rates and then the economic growth. And with this study, it was highlighting that a well-designed tax system can significantly impact our economic performance by providing the necessary revenue for public services and infrastructure, while on the other hand, minimizing economic inefficiencies or economic dis- distortions. Okay, so by um, optimizing our tax rates, Ghana can potentially enhance our economic growth. We can also reduce inequalities and we would also improve the overall social welfare of the people of the country. So that is basically what optimal taxation is about, where we would have to maximize our social welfare and, in the long run, minimizing economic inefficiencies or any distortion that might be in the economy. The next subtopic we'll be looking at is tax evasion and avoidance. And by its name, it is telling us what it is about. So with tax evasion and tax avoidance, there are two practices that individuals and businesses use, right, to reduce their tax liabilities. But then they differ slightly in the legalities and the methods used by the individuals and the businesses. Okay, so we'll pick them one after the other and see what they do. So with tax evasion, tax evasion is illegal, right? So we shouldn't practice that. Tax evasion is illegal and it involves when we deliberately or intentionally misrepresent or we conceal information to reduce tax liabilities. So this can include underreporting income, inflating deductions or hiding money in offshore accounts so that the government or the economy wouldn't know about um, maybe our income or our wealth to tax us in that accordance. But do you think we can blame people who involved in tax evasion? So can we blame them? Can we blame them or it is justified? Hello, please, are we around?
Yes,
Okay, so
it's
I'm
not
saying that
justified.
it's not justified. Okay, Mr.
Yes,
Elias, why do you say so?
yes, because if you look at the reason for the imposition of those taxes is to raise the needed government revenue for developmental projects.
Okay, okay. But here's the case that we
The
have.
government will not be able to get the needed revenue for this development.
Mr. Elias, please, I didn't get the last statement you made.
People are doing the tax. The government will not be able to get the needed revenue for its developmental
Okay,
projects. Even though sometimes it is difficult to pay those taxes, but I think if they also show what they can pay, government to try to also understand them and then see what they can do to support
okay. Who thinks it is justified on the other hand?
those support.
Please, are we here? Aside Mr. Elias, are we here? Mr. Mark, Miss Ellen, are we here? Okay, to me, I would say that if it was me, even though it is illegal, but sometimes where we have uh, like what we already established with the income tax, where people with low income are also being taxed, and even with uh, something like our VAT, where the more you buy commodities, the more you are taxed. But me as an or with our consumption tax, as a very low income earner, I am using um all my income which has been taxed also on necessities such as food or medicine or the likes. Right? So if I am trying to let's say maximize or intentionally manipulate my pay slip so that to be like I'm getting very little income than what I'm already gaining, so that will be taxed less. Don't you think that it is justified? Okay, that's just by the way. So with tax evasion, we said it's something illegal and then we shouldn't do it, right? But let's look at tax avoidance on the other hand. So tax avoidance, obviously, as tax evasion is illegal, tax avoidance is legal, right? And it involves using the tax code to your advantage. Using tax code to your advantage, which will help you to minimize tax liabilities. So this can include strategies like maximizing your deductions or credits or contributions to tax advantage accounts. Why? So while tax avoidance is within the bounds of the law, it's sometimes there are ethical questions that are raised about its fairness and then how it is influencing our tax system. As tax evasion is Ghana is a very concerning issue that we think that it is undermining the integrity of our tax system, right? And it's also depriving the government of essential revenue needed for public services and infrastructure. Because if you are involved in an illegal practice to deliberately misrepresent or conceal information so that your tax would be reduced or so that your liabilities would um your assets would be liable to tax, then what is how effective is our tax system if people can do that? Okay, so as I've already mentioned, some common ways people evade taxes is through underreporting their income, where maybe they have an income, they have an account offshore where some of their incomes are being sent to. So the auditor general doesn't have a hold of the exact amount they are making as individuals. Okay, but let's take into consideration that these actions where we do tax avoidance, right, do not only violate the law, but then they also create an unfair burden on honest taxpayers who comply to their tax obligation. If I am paying exactly what I have to pay for tax, and you are finding ways to go about your tax, then how are you being fair to me? It means at the long run, I'll be paying my tax, which will be used for public goods. You would equally enjoy from it, but you are not incurring the cost of the tax. Okay, so we would look at um let's look at some forms of tax evasion, right, which I've already mentioned. Um or you would go and look for it and then come and tell me about them when we meet God willing tomorrow. So one of the things I said is a form of tax evasion is underreporting your income. So one, underreporting your income. Okay, so this is what I'll do. How many are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we are 7. Mm, okay. So Mr. Ilyasu and Mr. Ilyasu, Mr. Mohammed, and Miss Ellen, you will tell us about uh, how underreporting of income is a form of tax evasion, and then you tell us what happens. There's something brief about it, and then Mr. Menu, Mohammed, Mr. Menu, and Mr. Mohammed will tell us about um inflating the inflating deductions. Okay, you tell us about inflating deductions, and Miss Joanna and Mr. Mark will tell us about hiding money in offshore accounts. Okay, so let's say that if you tell us about hiding money in offshore accounts, then you tell us the penalties associated to that in Ghana. Please, am I clear?
Okay, madam.
Please, did we get that?
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. So you told me that briefly before we start tomorrow, God willing's class. Something brief about it, and then maybe the penalty associated to that in Ghana. Okay, so move ahead to the next subtopic, and our next subtopic is talking about tax reforms. And then already, to as the name implies, tax reforms is just about we making changes or changes that are made to our tax system to improve our efficiency, our fairness, our simplicity, and then to make sure that everybody is being taxed rightly according to what he or she is due, or that is there's equity in taxing. Okay, so these reforms, most of the time they are um they are carried out to make sure that maybe we have an increase in government revenue, we are promoting our economic growth, and also we are reducing inequality in the country or in an economy. Right. So for example, some of these reforms might include lowering corporate tax rates to encourage investment, right? So simplifying the tax code to reduce compliance costs, or introducing progressive taxes to ensure that higher income individuals pay a fair share of tax, and lower income individuals also pay a fair share of tax. Okay, and of late, when we talk about tax reform, we are also focusing on addressing issues like our tax evasion and our tax avoidance, which we said earlier that these things sometimes question the integrity of our taxing system. So we do this to ensure that the tax system is robust enough to handle modern economic challenges. Okay, and then Ghana has implemented several tax reforms, right, since we started taxation as a form of revenue. Um, can anyone mention any of the tax reforms that has been undertaken by Ghana? Any tax reform that has been undertaken by Ghana since we started taking taxes as a country?
Yeah, the value added tax.
Okay, what was the reform that was done about that?
Mm, Well, I don't know.
Okay, So, in addition to your assignments, Mr. Mark, you find out about that and come and tell us God willing tomorrow.
That are becoming plenty. Oh.
Mr. Mark, you said,
My assignment are becoming plenty. Oh.
oh, yes, that's good. That's good. So that you get more knowledge.
Okay, I'll try my hands on it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So find out that there are many reforms that has been undertaken by the government of Ghana to increase duties on certain products, right? To revise our income tax rate and then also to introduce a growth and stability levy to support economic stability and economic efficiency. Okay, so in a nutshell, we are saying that tax reforms aim to create a more efficient, a more fair, and more robust tax system in Ghana by addressing all tax issues such as tax evasion, compliance, and economic stability. And then if the government hopes to foster sustainable economy or foster a very growing economy and improving public services for all citizens, then it should make sure that um, these reforms are taking place. So let me briefly tell you about some laws of some of the laws that were enacted on tax reforms in Ghana. So we have the excise duty amendment, which is Act 2023, Act 1093. So this act revised the excise duty rates on various products, including cigarettes, tobacco, wine, malt drink, and sweetened beverages, even Sprite in addition. So this amendment of tax was done to align with the ECOWAS protocols that aim to mitigate the harmful effects of certain products by increasing the duties on this tax, right? So the main reason why the government enacted this act was just to discourage people from consuming these products or these goods and services. And also, if people would still want to consume these products and services, in the long run they would be able to generate more revenue for the country. Okay, so that is for the Excise Duty Amendment Act 2023, Act 1093, which was a collaboration or an act that was enacted by all economic community of West African states. So the second one I'll talk about is the Income Tax Amendment number 2, Act also 2003, 2023, Act 1094. So this act revised the income tax rate for individuals and businesses. It introduced new tax brackets and rates to ensure a more progressive tax system. So the amendment also included provision of withholding tax on the realization of assets and liabilities, unifying the unrelieved loss regime, and revising the treatment of foreign exchange losses. Right? The sole aim of this tax was to ensure that our tax system was more equitable and more efficient. Then we go ahead to look at the Growth and Sustainability Levy Act. That was also in 2023, Act 1095. So with this Sustainability Levy Act, introduced a levy on certain entities to support government stability and growth. So the levy was designed to provide additional revenue for the government to address the macroeconomic challenges we're facing and to promote sustainable development. Okay, and then the levy applied to various sectors, ensuring that businesses were contributing to the economic stability of the nation or of the country. Then I'll go ahead to talk about Ghana Revenue Authority Amendment Act 2023, which is Act 1096. So what did it seek to do? It seeks to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Okay, so it's entailed provision for better tax administration, improved compliance measures, and then the adoption of technology to streamline tax collection processes. Okay, so the amendment aim was to make the GRA more responsive and capable of handling. And the last one I'll talk about is the Revenue Administration Act 2022 Act 1086. So what did this tax seek to do? It seeks to consolidate various tax administration laws to provide a comprehensive framework for tax collection and enforcement. It's also provided provisions for taxpayers' rights, obligation, and the power of the tax authorities. And it's also aimed to create a transparent and effective and equally efficient tax administrative system that ensured compliance and fairness in the long run. So that is about five of the um, tax reforms that were made in Ghana. Okay, now let's look at some importance of optimal taxation. But before I do that, what are some of the importance we think we will generate from um, um, optimal taxation? Anybody? We've already said what optimal taxation is, right? Where we said that we'll make sure that even though the taxes are being collected to gain revenue for the country, they'll not the taxes will not create inefficiencies in the long run. So what are some of the importance of optimal taxation?
Madam,
Yes, please, Mr. Mark.
it will give revenue to the government.
It generates revenue to the government.
Yeah. Or serve as government
How?
revenue for government.
Okay, how so?
And the tax are primary source of revenue to the government. So as more are being paid on public goods and services, then the government will get more money.
Okay, okay. But if the government is getting more money, how would inefficiencies be avoided?
Listen, inefficiency in economics. It will
Yes,
minimize economic distortion and promote efficient allocation of resources.
by allocation of resources. I'm not quite
Efficient.
getting that so very well.
I'm saying that it will maximize economic distortions and promote efficient allocation of resources.
Okay, okay, okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Mark. I also have one point here as redistributing income. Redistributing income. Who would like to um take that for us? How would optimal taxation um help in the redistribution of income?
So with the progressive tax,
Okay.
that one they can take money from the rich and then be able to redistribute it so that those who are poor will pay according to how much they earn. And this way, wealth can be redistributed among the citizens.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Ilyasu. Okay. Yes. So that's it. And also, um, as he said, in addition to um progressive taxation, as he said, also it also use indirect taxes such as our value added tax and the excise tax. In a way, it will minimize the regressive impact. Okay, where if indirect taxes are generally considered regressive because they take a larger proportion of income from lower income individuals, optimal taxation strategies can mitigate this effect by exempting essential goods and services from these taxes, as I said earlier, so that those that are um, essentials or those that are necessities will be exempted from it. And if they're exempted from it, you see that the other goods that are mostly purchased by, let's say, uh, if we have taxes on if we have taxes on how do we say it, goods such as let's say the normal goods that we consume in our households, right? But then if we go to the very rich people who would want to go to the mall and buy things such as the uh, let's say Pringles or something like that, which has had a very high value added tax to it, we'll find out that because those high income earners would purchase those goods, they will be paying more of the tax, so that the taxes on the everyday goods and services for us will be very low, and then it will in the long run encourage optimal taxation, because those who are getting more money, or those who have wealth, or those who possess the assets will be paying more, and those who are low income, even though they'll also be taxed, but then the tax should be reasonable, so that there will be equity in the system. Whilst we take the more tax from those who are earning more, or more tax from the rich, to provide public services and goods to the whole community, those underprivileged or those who are taking very little income can also benefit from those things in the long run. So, while optimal taxation is essential for creating a balanced and equitable tax system that supports income redistribution and also supporting our social welfare, we have to carefully design tax policies that consider both efficiency and equity. And the government of Ghana can generate the necessary revenue to fund public services and social programs, reduce income inequalities, and promote a more inclusive and a very fair society, right? And this approach to taxation not only will it enhance economic stability, but also it will foster social cohesion and improve the quality of life for all citizens of its country or of the nation. Okay, now, um, to the last subtopic of Unit 4, we are going to be looking at the challenges in implementing our tax reforms. Okay, so one of the basic or most common challenge of implementing tax reforms are political resistance, and that is very, very common. I'm sure not only in our part of the world, because if you are in, let's say, the ruling party and then you would want to reform some taxation, most of the times the, let me say, the assets owned by people or assets are mostly for those, or people, those in the ruling party are mostly people who own assets like during that particular time. So let's say that we have, as we have right now, the NDC in power. We'll find out that most people who will be running their assets or companies will be those from the NDC. Okay, so if you want to reform our taxes and maybe look at people who are saving offshore so that we can tax them how they are supposed to be taxed, they are the people who would have to vote for the the laws or acts to be enacted. So how would these people vote if it is going to affect me? If I'm an NDC big woman who has opened a company and then you're going to tax me, what is it? You're going to tax me for my property. They're going to tax me more. Then I will not I will not build in the country. I'll build elsewhere, and I will have an account elsewhere. Then in the long run, I would avoid the tax. So if now the government wants to do reform so that all those that have accounts offshore or these things offshore, then they will get us to taxes, and then a bill is passed for us to vote on. And why would I vote for that? I won't vote for it because it will affect me. Do we get that? Okay. So what other ways or what other challenges would we face during the implementation of tax reforms? Hello, Mr. Eric.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Eric, please can you tell us one challenge we'll face in implementing tax reforms?
I'm quiet because I'm not well. So, when
Oh, sorry about that.
yeah, that is
You'll
why
be fine.
but yes,
Okay,
I want to
okay.
hear the question.
Okay, so I'm asking that we've talked about tax reforms, and I'm saying what are some of the challenges we would face as a country if we want to reform our taxes?
Well, I can only talk about the invasion of the taxes, and then
Okay,
most of the taxpayers they refuse to pay it, while they are enjoying a sort of uh, profitability on their businesses. They don't, and actually, people have the misconception that they don't see the benefits of paying the tax. That is
okay,
why they used to invade the tax. And
okay,
most of the businesses are also not being registered, not in the former, more or less, they are not registered. So it
okay,
is also difficult for the GRA to stress them to ask them to pay taxes.
okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Eric. Mr. Isaac, we've not heard from you today. Oh, and Mr. Isaac left. Miss Faustina.
Hello, madam.
Hello, Faustina.
Good evening.
Good evening. Please, I hope you are doing well.
By God's grace, please, what about you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. I also think that if there is going to be a reform of taxes, one of the major challenges that they also have is
Okay.
um, we'll keep quiet.
Miss Faustina, please go ahead.
Okay. So I'm also talking about the regressive impacts, and that is some of the reforms, like introducing the high national sales, which is the VAT, can also place a disproportional maybe burden on the low income households who spend a
Okay.
larger share of their income on consumption. So I think there will be a regressive impact. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Miss Faustina. So yes, these are all challenges we face in implementing our tax reforms. Okay.
I want to add,
So in future, okay, Mr. Elias, can you go ahead?
yeah, I want to add, bribery and corruption. Yes, most of the
Okay. Okay.
yes,
How will that?
yes, in most companies who are trying to avoid paying tax, they can bribe the tax officials and then going to and under declare whatever they are supposed to pay, and then thereby avoiding paying huge amount of money they are supposed to pay as taxes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anyone want to say anything else? Okay. So maybe as policy makers in future, we must make sure that we would navigate these challenges to create a tax system that is both effective and also equitable. But despite these challenges, a well-designed tax reform can lead to a significant improvement in our economic performance as a nation, and also in the long run it will ensure economic stability, economic efficiency, and the social welfare of the people in the economy. Okay, so that is all for our unit 4. God willing, tomorrow, and we'll be meeting at the same time, 5 p.m., to talk about our fiscal deficit and government debt, which is a very interesting topic that I like personally. Okay, please, any question, any contribution, any suggestion? And a gentle reminder, Doc would be joining us, God willing, Monday for our presentation. And if you could kindly send your work prior to Monday so that with whatever you're presenting. So we'll be taking the Word document so that we can mark that also. But kindly forward your PowerPoint to our course rep so that he can also project it while you do your presentation on Monday, God willing.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, we heard you.
Okay, I thought you had something to say.
No, no, no.
Madam, please, will you
Okay.
send the homework to our course rep?
Yes, please. Kindly send it to me. He will forward. And please, which homework are you talking about?
Hello, madam.
Yes, Miss Ellen. Please, which homework are you talking about?
The work you gave us.
Right now, for you to find
No,
out
no,
and
no, no. The one we are presenting them on Monday.
Monday. Okay, so I said send the um Word document. I'll put an email in the class group. Then you forward the Word document to me via email. But then kindly send your PowerPoint presentations to your rep so that he
Yes.
will project it on Monday.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, any other thing? Okay. If no other thing is to be said,
Hello, madam.
hello, Mr. Ibrahim.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mm. My group people, talk to them for me. They should let us do the work. When we put message, they don't respond. Mm, They should try their best and let us do the work. I'm begging them,
Okay,
madam.
please, group members of Mr. Ibrahim, please, we beg you.
Group six.
Group 6.
Likewise, Max group. Likewise, group 2.
Hey, please, we shouldn't be doing that. Oh. So the
Apart
only
from
thing we
madam,
can do.
apart from madam Helen and myself, who are struggling with it. Me, cry my computer, we step on it and it's spoiled. So even when someone among us just to do the PowerPoint, we can't get. They are not even responding when we send them messages. As if we don't know ourselves.
So the best thing we can do, to be fair, is that please, upon submitting the work, anybody who wasn't involved, kindly do not add the person's index number, even though the person is in the group. So the people who did the work, just um indicate your index number on the Word document you send. Don't put anybody who didn't participate index number on the document you sent to me. Please, is that okay?
Madam, adult education, it's not easy. We are just pleading with them
Okay.
today and tomorrow. They should try and participate so that we'll put the things together and then we'll do the presentation on Monday.
Yes, we can only plead with them, but we can plead. But if they still don't adhere to our plea, kindly do just as I've said.
Great. Madam Helen.
Mr. Ibrahim.
Thank you. Since you are there,
Okay, thank you very much. And please, is there any other thing?
No, madam.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for your audience, and I hope to see you tomorrow, God willing, same time. And all the best, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
same to you,
Yeah, please,
madam.
are you
Thank you.
looking tomorrow?
She will sing.
Okay. Before I forget,
Thank you, madam.
you'd be writing your quiz very soon. So, but I'll send you the notes before that. I'll be forwarding.
More
Madam
questions,
Okay.
Brenda.
madam.
All right.
Hello.
If you can send us sample questions for us to practice.
Yes, exactly.
To,
If I can.
We want
yes,
sample
send us
More
questions.
sample
questions.
questions
Send some.
You people,
for us to practice.
Some sample questions.
I've been
Yeah.
talking to you about this sample question, sample question. Talk about past, well past. Talking of sample question, sample question.
Sample can be within now. You can get fresh question for sample question, not past questions. But current questions. That will be sample. Current ones will be sample. Past is past. My brother.
We need sample now for what? Talk of getting last.
Sample.
This is a
Sometimes we can do
last one.
Don't worry. We need
all the
sample questions.
questions.
People and sample,
But we need
sample.
example
If you
questions.
even take
So
the sample and
example
you
questions.
go, you are not even clear.
Okay.
What is the meaning of sample? Talk of
So what do you want? Past
You would be
questions.
Madam
able,
Brenda.
Mr. Ibrahim, you would be able to write it very well. Miss Faustina.
So,
You want past questions that you have not passed.
Please,
You want
I
past
heard
questions.
you said you are meeting tomorrow.
Yes, please. We are I explained to the class why I wasn't able to meet you on Monday. I had a paper to write. So yes, apologies for that. But I want us to meet tomorrow, God willing, so that we've made up for the two meetings.
Okay. At the exact time.
Yes, please, 5 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please.
So, madam, kindly help us. Just give us some sample questions to go through.
No. Okay, please. I've
please,
heard you. I'll do that.
Madam Forty, you are the one also talking of sample questions.
You are sending
Mr. Ibrahim.
my brother is
We
don't
all
worry.
need
Hey,
some
I
what
questions.
hear.
do you want?
Me, it's not easy. From morning up to if you come and see how busy I am, things are on my ears. I'm talking to
Hey,
you. I'm
Ibrahim,
talking to other.
you know the thing. Don't talk much. You talk to yourself. Eh?
I hear, madam. Thank you. So thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll see everyone, God willing, tomorrow.
Thank you, madam. So good.
Good night,
Good
madam.
night.